I'm not just looking at your answers. I'm looking at how you're setting it up. So for me, you've got to set up your variables as numbers. You cannot let a variable be a thing. I cannot let D be dogs. It's either got to be the number of dogs, it's got to be the number of legs of the dog. I mean, it's got to be specific about what you're dealing with, and you'll see kind of what we're talking about when we get to it. That's a big thing for me. And then we will write our final answers in a complete sentence. That's when you do it for classwork, and that's when you do it for quiz, test, all that stuff. You won't be, that will not be required of you on ACT. Got to know how to set them up. Now, to do that, you got to read the problems. And I know y'all are gluing, so if you got it there in front of you, I'm going to kind of read as we go. On Monday, Joe bought 10 cups of coffee and 5 donuts for his office at the cost of $16.50. That's the total amount of money he spent. It turns out that the donuts were more popular than the coffee. On Tuesday, he bought 5 cups of coffee and 10 donuts for a total of $14.25. How much was each cup of coffee? Now, it only asks for one thing, but you're going to have to do both just because of the way the structure of the equations. Because if you have 2 variables, you got to have 2. If you have 2 things you're trying to find, you're going to have to find both of them to be able to get the answer. It'll make sense as we do it. Now, I'm going to let C stand for. Now, cost is a number, if I'm talking about the cost, but is that what they're asking me for? Is it? Okay, do they? And then some people will put the number of cups of coffee, but we already know how many cups of coffee he bought, don't we? He bought 10 one day and 5 the next, so I know that he bought 15. So you have to watch. So we're going to, let's say C is the cost of 1 cup of coffee. Now, if you abbreviate, just be careful how much you do. Now, if it's something that doesn't matter, I would use X and Y because that's what your program is set up as. But in this case, I would get them confused. Is X the coffee? Is X the donut? You know, and so I'm going to let D be, and you can use ditto marks, cost of 1, and I'm just going to abbreviate donut, D-O-N-U-T. I guess that's officially how you spell donuts, but we tend to spell them like that, even though it didn't ask me for that. Now, here's where you got to see the setup of where these equations come from. If I know how much 1 cup of coffee costs, it costs C. You know, whether that's $1, whether that's $2, what it is. And I know that I bought 10 cups of coffee on the first day, that's what Joe bought. How much did he pay for just the coffee? If you know how much it costs, let's say it costs $1 a cup and you buy 3 cups, then how much did you spend on coffee? If I bought 3 cups at $1, I do what to those 2 numbers to find out how much he paid? 3 times 1. Yeah, if I buy 10 packs of notebook paper and it costs 89 cents a pack, I multiply 10 times 89, right? Okay, so on Monday, he bought 10 cups of coffee times how much it costs. So if it's 59 cents, 10 times 59 cents. Then he also bought some donuts. How many did he buy? And how much do each one of them cost? D. You know, 20 cents, 50 cents, $1.75, whatever. So, and then this is money plus money equals the total money he spent on Monday. And how much did he spend? $16.50. Now let's talk about Tuesday. Tuesday, he bought 5 cups of coffee that cost C. And how many donuts? 10. And they cost D. And how much total money did he spend that day? $14.25. Now, at that point, elimination would not be that hard. Substitution, Probably don't want to do decimals with substitution, but you could if you had to. Either one of those would be pretty easy to solve for to get by themselves, but we have a program. So let's walk our way through our program. Now, if you haven't done this lesson 11, you may not remember what you're supposed to do if you need to flip back to page 26. What's the first step to get to your solve system program? Program, and we want to execute it. Want the solve system. If you're already there, you just have to hit enter. I can circle down to it, and I need 8, and you hit enter. And it says, do you want to run the program? Yes. And now we want to run it. Now, the only difference is, instead of X and Y's, we've got C's and D's, but they're in the order. We did them alphabetically. So A is going to be what? 10. Enter. What's B? 5. What's C? 1650. Now you can put 0.5 or 0.50. It'll take both. Since it's money, I did it like that. And then now go to your other equation. What's D? 5. These are capital letters. Remember, this is not my variables. And then E is the 10, and F is the 1425. When you hit enter, you get answers, but I don't think most places, you say, well, how much is your cup of coffee? And they say, 5/4 or 4/5. Most people don't give it as fractions. So let's talk about which one is which. I'm going to actually write them right here. If X was the cup of coffee, then it costs 5/4. Now, how do you write, don't we do money as decimals? How do you find out what 5/4 is as a decimal? Thing out of the program, like if I do 5 divided by 4, and it gives me $1.25. And then even though it didn't ask me, 4 divided by 5, I think is 0.8 if you divide it, which is money, is 0.80. Don't use the cent. Do not write this. Because people, the little cents thing, because people tend to put a decimal in front of that, which is not true. That's like 0.8 of a penny. And that's not what we're doing. So put a decimal, put $0, and you'll have what the donut costs. Now, on this one, it only asks, so the cost, complete sentence, of a cup of coffee is, or was, I guess, $1.25. So you could check your arithmetic. You could multiply 10 times that plus 5 times that, add them together, you would get this, and then do the reverse. 5 cups of coffee and 10 donuts, and it would be that amount.